Hello, students, and anyone else who may be watching from home. This is Mr. Borges, also known as Zanzolo, and today we're going to be talking about our next project in Scratch, which is right here with a new button, Space Invaders. This is going to be part 1. Space Invaders is going to have 3 parts. So we're going to talk about the first part of the project today, and everybody's going to build the first part of their project. So we're going to start with our next Scratch project. It's going to be Space Invaders project. It's going to be in 3 parts. First, we're going to learn how to have only one bullet on the screen at the time, and how we're going to use a trick with pen tools and stamps to have shields that are going to get eaten away if they get shot. All right, so we're going to please start a Scratch Space Invaders project. Your project needs the following things. You're going to have a ship, sprite, that is the player. I put ship in quotes. It doesn't have to look like a ship. Could look like whatever. It's going to be controlled by to move back and forth on the ground. Then you're going to have a bullet sprite. I should have put bullet in quotes also. It could be something else. But the idea is that it's going to move up when it's shot. Eventually, it's going to hit invading aliens. And the player cannot shoot again while the bullet is still on the screen. That's why for this one, we're not going to bother using clones because we're not going to have more than one shot. We're not allowed to have more than one shot anyway. And then for number 3, we're going to have shields that get chipped away at when they are shot. And then, of course, you'll have a better title than untitled and some instructions. I'm actually going to remove submit to canvas. Let me go ahead and do that now, because actually this is just only part. This is only part 1. So there we go. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started making this project. So here we are in Scratch. I'm going to go ahead and click Create. We're not going to use Scratchcat. So I'm going to go to the Backdrops, and we're going to go to our Backdrops tab. And we're going to make some ground. I'm just going to use this square tool right here. There we go. Got some ground right there. You can, of course, change the color of that, move it around, but don't move it too high. We've actually got to fit a lot of stuff on the screen here. Got to have a place for your ship to move back and forth, a place for shields, a place for invading aliens. So keep it pretty low to the ground. All right, I'm going to now choose a sprite to be my ship. I think there's one called Rocket Ship, which is what I'm going to use. You don't have to use that. Your ship does not have to look like a ship at all. I'm going to make it a little bit smaller by changing the size here. Put it about where I want, and then there's a costume I'd rather use. I'm going to use that one. I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of these other costumes because I'm not using them. And this is the one I'm going to use. This is my starting costume. I'm just going to rename it to Start Ship so that I can keep track of what it is. Later on, I will have another costume for this, which is going to be like the exploding ship, if you lose. So I'm going to adjust the height of this to about what I want, something like that, I think. And then I'm going to go to the Code tab and write some instructions for the ship. And I bet you could do this without my help at this point, right? I just want us to move back and forth when players push keys on the keyboard. So we're going to forever check if they are pushing a key. If sensing block key is pressed, if key, let's say left arrow, if key left arrow is pressed, we're going to move to the left. That's going to be the x-axis. We're going to change our x coordinate, and the left is the negative direction. So we're going to change x by negative 10. There we go. We're going to duplicate this and build the same thing for the right-hand side. So if the right is pressed, we still want to change x, this time by a positive amount. There we go. So now I can move back and forth, and that's pretty good. But you can see that I can go off the screen. And so we're going to finally address that. Right? It's been an issue in the past. All of our projects, we could move off the screen. We don't want the player to go off the screen to be able to hide from the alien bullets. That's cheating. So what we're going to do is we're going to change the rule. Right now, the rule is if player pushes to the left, the ship moves to the left. But it's more complicated than that, right? The player pushes to the left and there's more room to let them move, then we want to do this. But there's 2 different rules, right? If left arrow is pressed and there's more room, and there's a block called and. It lets us put two different things inside our if blocks. And. So now we can check two different things. We can check if left arrow is pressed and something else. And then something else is going to be, well, if the ship's X position, right, isn't too small. Because if it gets too small, if it gets less than some amount, well, what is that amount? Let's check it out. It's right around there. Right now, the X position of the ship is negative 212. Right? If it gets any smaller than that, we actually don't want to move anymore. So what we're going to say is if the left arrow is pressed and this number, the X position, is still bigger than, still greater than negative 212, then let them move. So it has to be both of those things. If left arrow is pressed and the ship's X position, well, under motion, we can get that number. The ship's X position, right, negative 211, right here, they rounded it, negative 211. We're going to check if that number is greater than, if that number, X position, is still greater than the number that we said. We said it was negative 211, negative 212, something like that. So now we're going to check both of these things. We're going to check if the left arrow is pressed and the rocket ship's X position is still bigger than that limit, negative 212. If both of those things happen, if this and this happens, then we're going to change the X position by negative 10. And that's the big idea there. So if we throw this into our forever loop, I'll go ahead and start this up. Now when let's see. Now when I push to the left, I can't go off the screen. That's as far as I can go. And I can't go back to the right unless I put this in here too. But now if I can go back to the right, and that's as far to the left as I can go, I can't go off the screen. And I can limit that even more, right? If I decide, well, I'm a little bit off the screen and I don't like that, okay, well, you can change this number even less, right? So make it something else. Maybe it's 200 is the right answer. No, you can have your own project with your own rule. See, now you're not going to even get close to the edge of the screen. Maybe that's the right answer for your project. Anyways, you're going to do the same exact idea for the right-hand side. So we're going to, let's build it again. We're going to check, yeah, if the right arrow is pressed and something else. We're checking two things now. Yeah, we're going to check if the right arrow is pressed and that X position. Now this time we're talking about the other side over here. So if that X position is not too big, if that X position gets bigger than 205, that's right, that's cheating. So we're going to check, okay, that number, the ship's X position, that number has to be less than, whatever we said. Let's just keep it the same on both sides. So that would be, and the other, now it's positive, it's on the other side. So this is where X is positive 200, right, on our X-axis. So we're going to check as long as the rocket ship is still, we're going the other way now. So as long as it's still less than, as long as the rocket ship's X position is still less than 200, and somebody's pushing to the right, then we're allowed to move. But it has to be both of those things. Somebody pushing to the right, and we're not already too far to the right. All right, so go ahead and run that, and now you can see that my spaceship is no longer allowed to go off the screen anymore. So no more cheating allowed for that. That's pretty good. I will leave this example showing on the shared screen in class because this is a new idea, but we can check more than one thing in our if blocks, in our conditional tests. All right, so next thing to do, we're going to make a new sprite, and this one is going to be for our bullet. And I'm just going to do something very simple. It's all skinny rectangle, and kind of put it on center, of course. All right, so there we go. Oops. There we go. And, maybe make it a little bit skinnier. Maybe we can make it a little bit shorter. That's up to you. Get it to be about what you want it to be. And the shot's not supposed to be bigger than the whole ship or whatever. Something like that, maybe. It's probably pretty good. Okay. Now we're going to write some instructions for this. And the instructions are just, right, we don't want to just be hanging out here all the time. So we're probably going to, thinking ahead a little bit, we're probably going to tell it to hide when it first starts out the game. And then what we're going to do is anytime somebody pushes space, so if if space key is pressed, what do we want the shot to do? Well, that's when we want it to show. So I tell it to show up. We want it to go to the rocket ship because that's where the rocket ship's moving around, but that's where it's supposed to start. Go to the rocket ship. And then we want it to move up. And not just one time. We want it to move, keep moving up. And we've done that before. Right, we're going to use a repeat block. It doesn't, not forever. We don't want it to go up forever. We want it to go up a bunch of times. And the up direction is y. So we're going to change it. Up is positive. We're going to change y by some positive amount a few times. And then when we're done, we're going to go ahead and hide our shot again. We don't want it to just be floating up on the edge of the screen, stuck there forever. All right, there we go. So we go ahead and try this out now. Click the green flag and push space, and I get my shot going. Now, there's two things I don't like about it. I want it to go all the way up. We just need more repeats. Some people want to change this. You can, but it makes the shot move faster. I think the speed's about right. I almost wanted to do it more times, so I'm going to put in a higher number here. Something like that. Yeah, it seems pretty good. You can make it 35. Maybe that's a better number. I don't know. Then we're going to do... Yeah, that's pretty good. But then also, see how the shot starts starting inside the middle of the ship? I kind of don't like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it, okay, yeah, show. Yeah, go to the rocket ship. But before you start your moving, I'm going to kind of fudge it a little bit. I'm going to tell it, yeah, you know what? Sneak up a little bit higher. Change y by a little bit more. And I don't know what the right answer is. I'm just guessing again. You might have to play around with that to get it. That's better. Starting a little bit higher, but maybe 40 would have been better. I'll try that. It didn't change as much as I thought. Let me try 50. That's about right. So it seems like my shot is now coming from the top of my ship. And if you can, I don't know if you can hear, I'm spamming the space button, but the game's ignoring me. It finishes its instruction. It finishes repeating these 35 times before it's able to do something else. So that's pretty good. All right. Next thing we've got left to do then is for the barriers. So the shields. So I'm going to do, for this, we're going to do a little trick. So using stamps. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw my barrier and, pick some color. I would pick a different color than whatever you're using anywhere else. And you can make your barriers as interesting as you want. Mine's going to be pretty boring. There we go. And that's bigger than I want. So I'm going to do something like this. That's actually still a little bit taller than I want. We need to have lots of space for the aliens to still be up there. Something like that. So that's going to be a shield. And I'm going to have a number of these. I'm going to put 3. You could have more than 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell them, I think that height's about right. So just the height that you want, that's the Y position. I'm at negative 60 is my height. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell my sprite, yeah, go to that position. Go to where Y is negative 60, but let's send it to the center. That's where X is going to be 0. And let's do a stamp. So we're going to stamp that sprite. Right, and since we're doing stamps, I'm going to go ahead and erase all at the beginning. We've used stamps before. You'll remember. If we don't, we'll have our leftover stamps from before. Okay, then I'm going to stamp a couple more times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to send it over to the left a little bit. How far? I don't know. Something like this, maybe. Negative 125. So let's do that. Negative 125. And I'm going to do another stamp at the opposite of that, positive 125. So like that. So now when I click the green flag, I'm going to have my 3 barriers, but I still have my original. It's kind of in the way, and it's kind of not what I wanted. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to hide at that point in the game. Although, if I do that, then it's going to just stay hidden all the time. So I'm not going to get more stamps. If I ever need to use it again, I'll need to tell it to show. The funny thing is if you stamp a hidden sprite, it still shows up as a stamp. So we can just leave it hidden all the time. All right, so that's pretty good, except now you can see I can shoot all the way through my barriers. And I'm not supposed to be able to do that. Although shooting is supposed to start chipping away and breaking a barrier. So what we're going to do is we're going to write an instruction for the bullet. We're going to check if, as it's moving, every time it moves, here's where it moves. every time it moves, we're going to also check if it's touching that specific color. If it's touching the color of our barrier, and yours is going to be a different color than mine, if it's touching that color, what we're going to do is we're going to switch. Now my background color is white, so I'm going to switch my sprite bullet. Here's my bullet. I'm going to make a new, here we go. I'm going to make a new costume for it that is that same color, that's just white. Now, if your backdrop's a different color, then you're going to have to pick a different color for that. And then this also helps because we're going to stamp white on top of the barrier. It helps if this is a little bigger than the bullet. So I'm just stretching it a little bit. And the reason why is because then it's going to let a path. It's going to be able to let there be a path. So you'll see what I mean in a second. So what we're going to do is if touching the color, what we want to do is we want to switch the costume. So the white one, we want to stamp that white bullet on top of the barrier. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and stop the bullet. We don't want the bullet to just be able to keep going after it hits the barrier. So we're not going to stop all. We're just stopping this script. All right, script for the bullet. So there we go. Now I can move around. If I shoot a bullet, okay, I have to switch back to the right costume. So when one last piece, when this key space is pressed, we are going to have to switch costume back to the bullet that's showing. There we go. So now I can shoot my bullet, and I can also, right, if the bullet hits the barrier, it switches to white and stamps on top of it. Right? And now I can shoot up through that white part because I'm not touching the orange. And that's the big idea. And that's basically it. I'm going to go ahead and stop this video here for the end of part 1. And then what we're going to do is pick up here where we left off for part 2. All right, folks, thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.